Welcome back to another episode of Raw Sports Center, man. As you can see by the title and by the thumbnail, today we're going to be breaking down some film on Micah Parsons. So the very first play, man, we got to have a situation. We got a 3rd and 10. So now this is another thing I wanted to kind of elaborate too. And I kind of briefly touched on this with the Trey Henderson video. It's like sometimes I think that sacks can become somewhat of a kind of a watered down statistic, just because sometimes it's a lot of things that can factor into sacks. Sometimes it can be not necessarily that the pass rush was that good, but just the coverage in the secondary could have been that good to where the quarterback just didn't have nowhere to go with the ball. So he had nothing but time. So he had, if the pass rush wasn't able to get there, he was able to, have a little bit more time normally than he would have. But if nobody's open and he doesn't make a move with opposed to trying to roll out the pocket or whatever the case may be, he might fall victim to a sack. So that's kind of similar to this play right here. So if you look at Micah Parsons, they tried to double team him. So they sent Njoku to be able to try to, get in front of him and kind of chip him before he goes out into his route. And then they kind of had him go back into the other left tackle right there, or the right tackle, my bad, the other right tackle. But there was nothing really there. You know what I mean? They kind of ran something like they was trying to maybe run some type of stunt that didn't really necessarily go right. But the coverage on the back end was pretty good, which allowed for them to be able to. And then I think is kind of like if you look at the beginning play where you had some guys looking like they were probably going to rush, but then they kind of dropped back into coverage now. And it could have been possibly, too, that they had a spy on Deshaun Watson, being that it was a guy to have a situation, and you have the possibility of him being able to roll out of the pocket and make plays with his legs. So it could have been that. But like I said, to me, this is just a hustle sack. The original lane wasn't there. He just kept fighting, and he eventually found the hole to be able to get back there on Deshaun Watson to get a sack. So let me kind of briefly elaborate on what I was talking about on the previous clip when I was saying that sacks can kind of be a watered down statistic. So let's just say, for instance, if you get a sack on first down, right, and it takes them from a 1st and 10 to maybe a 2nd and 16 or whatever the case may be, and they end up getting the first down after that sack. That's what I mean by that. Now, 3rd down sacks and 4th down sacks, obviously, because those are drive enders, then those are vital. But that's what I'm saying. When I'm looking at sacks, I'm trying to see, okay, when were these sacks happening? Were they happening in critical moments? And how, was it anything that you've done specifically? Was it more so coverage on the back end, or the quarterback just kind of being indecisive? Or was it the pressure that you guys was putting on them that was making them having to kind of rush decisions and get the ball out their hand that lead to possible turnover? So right here, I don't know what they had going on in this play right here. They just did not block the most dangerous person on that play, which was Micah Parsons. And he just kind of came in and had a free shot with Deshaun Watson. But he realized that obviously when he seen that Deshaun Watson had squared up and was finna get ready to throw the ball, that he wasn't going to be able to get back there to him. So that's just good awareness for him to realize that, okay, he's probably going to get ready to throw this ball. Because even if it was in a situation where he was going to pump fake, if anything, I would have figured that he probably would have pump fake while he was running to try to get you off balance to be able to try to make something happen. But he was able to jump up there, tip the ball, and that led to an interception, which was a drive ender. And look at the field position. So like they said, it's a thing called hitting yardage, which are yards gained after an interception or fumble, a punt return, kick return, et cetera, et cetera. Those are hitting yardage situations. So right here, this is a QB hurry and a tip pass that led into an interception. So I feel like something else too that is not talked about a lot whenever we're talking about edge rushers or outside linebackers. I know a lot of times we always talk about the pressure that they put on the quarterback, but two, it's also, can you contribute in the run defense as well? And I consider that what you would kind of consider to be a 3-down player. I know that 3-down player probably is kind of more so traditionally used for running backs. Is a 3-down back, a guy who can contribute to all downs, whether it's first down, second down, more so run situations, and then when it's 3rd down, whenever it's going to be a situation where we might have to utilize you for pass protection, or we might have to utilize you to be able to be an option in the passing game. So that's something I feel like that's kind of overlooked. But right here, Micah Parsons shows that he can not only do it from the 3rd down aspect and rushing the quarterback, but also too, he can do it in the run game, being able to make tackles on the running backs in the backfield. So right here, man, he just really did a good job at just reading his matchup right here on the outside. He just kind of attacked the inside shoulder and was able to get to the position, kind of get into positioning before he was able to. So I think that the lineman was probably anticipating that he probably was going to try to be on the attack his outside shoulder, because to contain the outside to force him back in. But I looked like he did a good job at kind of hitting him with a Euro step, where it showed as if he was going to try to go outside and then bounce back inside, and he just had a straight shot at the running back. So this play right here, man, they was 3rd and forever. So obviously that's not idealistic situation to be in. Man, obviously, it's going to be a little bit harder converting those situations right there because the defense is playing back to prevent you from being able to do anything deep. And obviously, I'm pretty sure they probably got to spy somebody in the area to try to keep him contained, keep Jalen Hurts contained like that guy right there from being able to run and possibly pick up the first down. But once again, for me, it's just that it's a hustle sack. This is what I classify as a hustle sack, to where if you didn't beat your assignment initially and you kind of got to work a little bit more, that doesn't mean that if you don't beat them off the line of scrimmage, that doesn't mean that, okay, this play is over. Nah, the play is, as long as the play is still going on, the whistle hasn't been blowing, there's always a play that could possibly be made. And that's what Micah Parsons does a good job here and in the first clip as well. Not initially getting the idealistic start to the play as he would have wanted, with being able to just beat his guy, and being that the lanes were kind of just clogged up, but he just kept working around blockers, and was able to get Jalen Hurts and catch him as he was trying to roll out the pocket. And once again, man, if you watch my videos consistently, one of the things that I always talk about is effort, man. I'm an effort guy. Like, for me, that's everything. And a lot of times on plays, man, things aren't going to go the way that you idealistically want them. Like I always talk about playing on script and off script. On script is when you go out and execute the play exactly how you practice it, and that's the way it goes. That's idealistic. That's just not always the situation. Now, playing off script is when the things that you didn't anticipate happen. How do you respond to it? And just like I say right here, where initially I wasn't able to beat my blocker or my assignment to be able to get to the quarterback. But guess what? That don't mean that this play is over with. If I couldn't try this way, let me just keep on working. Let me keep working. And eventually you're going to put yourself in position. Now, what did I talk about early on? So, how I was saying that sacks can be a watered down stat sometimes. Like I was saying, like, just think about it on first down. If you get a sack and you go from 1st and 10 to maybe 2nd and 15 or whatever the case may be, they still have a shot at being able to get the first down and keep the drive alive. Now, however, if you get a first down sack, second down sack, obviously 3rd and 4th down sacks, because those are drive enders. But if you get a 1st and 2nd down sack, that's a strip sack that leads to a turnover, then absolutely, yeah, because what's the name of the game? Scoring points, right? How many points can you score, and can you stop the other team from scoring points? So whenever we can get a strip sack, because those translate into opportunities to score, whether it's a scoop and score, which they didn't scoop and score it here, but it goes back to what I was saying too, in terms of the hitting yardage, the yards after a turnover, the yards after an interception, like we seen early on, and then the yards after a fumble recovery, like we seen right here. And to me, that's the deciding factor when we come to dominant defensive guys. Like, a lot of guys can make tackles, a lot of guys can get sacks, but my thing is, can you turn that football over? So right here, man, this play is just an embodiment of the athleticism of Micah Parsons. But then this also just shows you how difficult the NFL is, because if this is high school and if this is college, more times than not, this play ends up with Jalen Hurts running into the end zone for a touchdown. But this just goes to show you how small the talent gap is on the NFL level. But man, this guy right here, man, just is able to keep up with Jalen Hurts, running side to side, step for step. You know what I mean? Like, just look at that. Even though they gave him a free release, I'm not quite sure if they were basically saying, well, we think that Jalen is just going to be able to beat him because it's a boot and he's just going to roll out, or they was kind of banking on him taking the running back. I don't know what that whole situation was before allowing him to be able to just run clean through. But man, it's just like I say, man, it's disrupting the whole play. Like, he's already at the point, because you're trying to get away from Micah Parsons. So when you're on the run like that, it's kind of hard to be on the run, running as fast as you are and trying to throw that ball accurately. So he just disrupts that whole play. This was a 2nd down situation as well too, so it wasn't a 3rd down. They did have one more play after this, but man, it just is a testament of his athleticism, man. That just shows you that he can affect the game in multiple facets. He can affect it from a strength standpoint. When you're looking at him bull rushing those offensive linemen and just being able to handle them and just being able to throw those running backs down in the backfield. And then you look at it from an athleticism standpoint, to be able to make tackles in space for one, but then also being able to keep up with the mobile quarterbacks that is today's NFL. So this play right here, man, is just a testament of how dominant Micah Parsons is. And like I say, man, you got a team like Cowboys that's a traditional kind of a 4-3 defense, meaning they got 4 down linemen and 3 linebackers, or they might be in a nickel formation where they replace one of the linebackers with a corner. But just look at the benefits of having a dominant defensive player. You can only rush 4. So y'all know I always talk about the importance of that. If you can only rush 4 guys to drop everybody else back into coverage, or even in a situation where you play on a team like Jaden Daniels, use that that guy that you possibly could be using for a blitzer to spy Jaden Daniels, then it makes things so much easier on the back end. But just look at this, man. He lines up on the inside here. Typically, we've seen him lined up on the outside, more so that I would say we probably seen him lined up against on the right side, operating from the right side of the field. But right here, he's lined up on the inside, man, and he just does a hell of a job at, for one, just knocking this lineman's hands down. And then the second lineman that was trying to get to him, he just kind of beat him to the punch, had him out leveraged. And man, it just, look at how much attention this one man draws. These are two men. These are two linemen trying to block one guy. This is one guy. He just blows by him, gets past him, and just disrupted that whole play, man. This was a second down play too, so it wasn't a third down, but that takes a second and maybe medium or a second and long and makes it to a second and longer with that sack. So on this play right here, man, this is a gotta have it situation, but this play right here is perfect for what I was trying to convey earlier. So I was looking at Jurassic Park. So if you guys hear me, if you watch my videos regularly, you always hear me talk about defense, and I always talk about equating defense to how lions hunt, how everybody has an assignment and everybody has to do their job in order for that hunt to go successful. And it's kind of the equivalent to what the guy said off of Jurassic Park when he was telling the kid about the raptors, and the kid was like, "Oh man, that just looks like a big oversized turkey. They don't look intimidating at all." And the guy came to him and was just telling him what makes the raptor so intimidating. He was like, that T-Rexes, most people think that if I don't move, then the T-Rex, that the Raptors wouldn't be able to see me because their vision is based off of motion. They sense movement. So he was like, so most people think that about raptors. Raptors are completely different. You can be looking at a T-Rex and you're standing still and he don't see you. You can be looking at a raptor and a raptor is looking right directly back at you, staring into your soul, and you're so focused on him, that one individual raptor, you don't see the other two raptors or the three raptors coming from your side and from your back. And that's how they hunt their pack hunters. So that's the equivalent to a play like this. So you look at this play right here, they were kind of showing like a double mug look, right? You know, from what I've seen, most of the Cowboys are just typically only rushing four guys. We're on pressuring the four guys, which are their down linemen. So right here, it's a third down, got to have a situation, obviously. So you want to create confusion, right? So the quarterback is looking at those two linebackers, right? Let's go back to it. Those two linebackers, the quarterback is looking at them and trying to figure out and thinking to himself, okay, this is a blitz. This ball has to come out my hand quick. So he's probably looking at the option of where he thinks that ball is coming to. But at the snap of the ball, they drop back into coverage. So now you're so focused on them that you don't see the other guys coming from the side, which is Micah Parsons right here. So they ran a stunt where Micah Parsons looked like he was going to run through one gap, and he bounced back and took the opposite gap, and he was able to get pressure up front, which caused the quarterback to try to roll out to a degree where he ran into the safety. But man, this play right here is just a perfect analogy of how a defense strategically and structurally works together to be able to shut down an offense. So right here, man, we got another gotta have a situation. You know, one of the things I seen about Parsons too, I'm pretty sure that's been a story of his whole career. I just never really looked at it deeply into detail like I am now, is that you see him lining up in different aspects. And you know, we always talk about guys who can do more than one thing, guys who can line up in multiple positions. You know, he can line up on the left side, he can line up on the right side, he can line up on the interior as an interior lineman, and he can stand up. He can rush with his hand in the dirt, and he can stand up as a linebacker. So having a guy like him that's a Swiss Army knife, it allows you to be much creative as a defensive coordinator, and it makes it much harder from an offensive standpoint to base what they do off of personnel, because they say, hey, this guy lines up, you know, in several different places. So it's like we don't really know what it is they're trying to do based off from a personnel standpoint, because their personnel doesn't really change. But right here, man, this is another high effort sack. He's matched up on the right side of the offense with the right tackle, and he just does a good job at being able to get past him, being able to swim move past him, and then Bryce Young was able to step up and try to roll out to make something happen. Once again, man, showing effort, showing hustle. He was able to track him down, and once again, man, not only was he able to get a sack, he was able to create a turnover. Now, granted, the Panthers did recover it back, but still, though, the possibility of plays like that is, okay, let's say, for instance, they did recover it here, but it still was an opportunity for us to be able to, because they leaving, if you think about it, it's a got to have it third down situation. So whether we get a sack or a strip sack, that's a drive ending set play regardless, unless they go for it on fourth down. But at the same time, if we would have been able to get that, it would have negated the yards that we probably are going to lose from them punting the ball and being able to kind of regain their field positioning. But then it also goes back to what I was saying earlier too. You know, everybody can get sacks from time to time. Everybody can get a lot of tackles and can make tackles from time to time. But the good defensive players, whether you be a D lineman, linebacker, corner, or a safety, can you turn the ball over? Can you create turnovers and be able to put your offensive position in good field position to be able to put points on the board? So right here, we have another gotta have a situation. I think this was like another third and long play. So right here, Micah Parsons actually do what you always will hear Coach Belichick talk against, especially whenever you're dealing with mobile quarterbacks, and that's not run past the quarterback. Because once you run past the quarterback, now you give him a lane to be able to step up and throw the ball. But if you're dealing with a guy like Jaden Daniels, you give him a lane to be able to step up and run. But once again, what is one of the things that I was talking about that I love about Parsons? The effort to not give up, even if you are out of position. So if Parsons gives up because he said, okay, well, you know what, I done rushed past him, he done stepped up, now the play pretty much over with, Jaden Daniels may be able to make something happen from this play from a leverage standpoint, even though it looked like they kind of did have him out leveraged defensively. And that's where that hunting in a pack mentality come of rallying to the ball to make up for it. But let's just say if he didn't give that effort, who knows, that play might have been a possibility of making something happen. But with him giving effort of running past the quarterback, circling around him like it was like one of those hula hoop drills, and being able to come up and make a play still, like I say, man, to me, that's one of the things that just stands out to me, man. I just love the effort that he gives play in and play out. All right, so you remember exactly what I was talking about early on with Parsons when I was saying that he can line up in a multitude of different positions. He can line up on the left side, he can line up on the right side, and he can line up as an interior lineman, which is what he did right here. And it got to have a situation, man. And he just blew past. Was that the center, I believe? Yeah, that was the center. He just blew past the center. I mean, the center never stood a chance, and he was just able to get back home on Jaden Daniels on this play right here. Like they actually had like kind of a so yeah, they did like they sent another guy in to kind of give an added level of pressure. So you probably had offensive linemen that were probably trying to slide and help out on other ends, and kind of just left the center on the island with Micah Parsons, which is something you don't want to do, especially in a guy that have a situation right here. So he was able to come up with the sack. But man, ultimately, like I say, man, Micah Parsons is a guy that can do a multitude of different things. I didn't really see too many clips in breaking down film where he was lined up, standing up, other than here rushing, but I didn't really see too many when he was lined up as a linebacker, which he can do that as well. So like I said, having a guy like that, man, it just allows you to be very creative in what you can do from a defensive schematic standpoint, and it makes the opposing offense, it makes it a little bit harder for them to kind of figure out what you're trying to do based off of personnel, because you got a guy that can line up in a multitude of different positions. So you don't have to worry about swapping this person out or swapping that person out. You can just always leave him and just, rotate him around. And it allows you to be able to put things around him as well, of saying, okay, we got this guy who's good at this. But traditionally, if this was a team where we only had this guy who can play this one position, then we couldn't do it because they play the same position. But when we got a guy who can do a multitude of different things, we can say, okay, we can put him here and we can bring this guy in to fill in that role. So it just gives you that option from a defensive coordinator standpoint. But man, if you did enjoy this video, do me a big favor, man. Smash that thumbs up button. Also, if you're new to the channel, man, make sure you subscribe. And when you subscribe, make sure that you click that post notification bell. That way you be notified every time I upload. And I'll see y'all in the next video.